Sawadee Krap. Hey everybody, it's Brother Ben again from Udon Thani, Thailand. Video number 6 in a 7-part series on keys to a strong prayer life. We've looked at several things already and we're getting close to the end with these last few videos. We are pursuing something. We want to see God do some significant things, and we're ready to pay a little price for that. We live in the last days. We feel like we don't have a lot of time left. So may God help us to be serious about these things and to grow in our prayer life and to sharpen our prayer life. So I hope that today will bless you. This one is on simple faith. The text is Matthew 6:8 from the Sermon on the Mount, when Jesus said, "For your Father knows what things you have need of before you ask Him." And for me, I like this verse because it contains something in it that grabs my attention. And it's about a simple thing, which is just believing that God knows and that He hears us when we pray. But that's a simple thing, but it's indispensable to an effective prayer life. So I understand from this verse, from other places in the Bible, that God knows before I ever say anything what I'm going to say. That He knows it completely. He knows the deepest needs within and around me before I ever share those things with Him. He knows what's driving that prayer, what my desires that drive me to pray. He understands all that. And knowing that and thinking about that helps me to change my focus from myself to God. And to me, that's a key with simple faith, is just having a focus on God. So I see faith as my vision of God. So it's more, not so much how big is my faith, but how big is God. And if I can focus there, then you can ask for big things, because it's not how big my faith is to be able to see those things happen. It's how big God is. And so to me, just that kind of focus is what I mean by simple faith. And so it takes kind of the burden off of me and how big my faith is onto God and how big He is in my mind and in my heart. So you could say strong faith would be a correct vision of God, or to see God as this great God that He is. Yeah. So it's not just faith that we're talking about, it's faith in God. So it's a relational thing, and it's certainly not a one-sided thing. I don't see faith as mechanical, that if I just push certain buttons, if I just say it a certain way and don't say it this way, then it'll happen. Or if I can just believe, if I can just think a certain way and don't think about those things, then it'll happen. I don't see it as a way to gain the things that I desire or that I want. That I see the other side of that, and that's God's desires, that's God's will. So it also involves submission to God. So it's certainly not a one-sided thing, it's a relational thing. And that's how I view faith. So great faith would be just seeing God as the great God that He is. So some people might feel like their faith is small, like maybe, I can't really believe God to do great things because my faith is just not that great. It makes me think of the time when the apostles approached Jesus and they said, "Lord, increase our faith." And He answered them, "If you had faith as a mustard seed, you would say," and so on and so on. You know the end of that, right? So in here, I see something very simple that's also very powerful. It points to the fact it's not about building up faith to some great level to be able to see mountains move and things like that, but it's something more simple. You remember the times when Jesus would just ask somebody, do you believe I'm able to do this? And if the answer was yes, then people saw miracles happen. And so it became a simple thing. It wasn't something that drummed up, that you had to build up and then to see something, some miracle happen. And I think it points to something very basic, the mustard seed, the smallest of all seeds. Something that seems insignificant, seems powerless, can actually be something with great power. And so that's what I see in simple faith, is something with great power. So if we wanted to increase faith, my encouragement would be to increase our vision of God, to learn to focus on looking to God and seeing Him for who He is. And faith will come more naturally from that, instead of looking in and trying to do something within ourselves to make those things happen. Hebrews 11 gives us something of a definition of faith in verse 1 and verse 6. It says it's the evidence of things unseen, the substance of things hoped for. It still makes it kind of a little bit hard to understand, but it's almost like it's saying that the faith that we have is the evidence, is the substance of things there, things in the future, things that we can't see. Are they real? Well, this is evidence that that's real. This is the substance of what's coming. But it's still not something I can touch and feel. So there's a mystical quality to that. We understand it to some degree, but it doesn't quite fully satisfy, the definition of what faith is. Verse 6 helps us a little bit more. It says it's impossible to please God because without faith. And the one who comes to God has to believe that He exists and that He rewards those who diligently seek Him. So again, God is the focus. And in this verse, I see a few things. I see that faith needs to believe that God is, that God can, and that God cares. And in these three things is something very basic to faith. And I've seen this in a beautiful way in people that come from Buddhist backgrounds here in our area, that when they begin to open up their understanding, begin to open their heart just a little bit and consider the idea of a creator, consider the idea, look at the evidence around us in the world, and you see something begin to happen. You see faith begin to rise, just a very simple, basic faith. And you see God begin to reveal Himself to people. I've seen this over and over again, and it's such a beautiful thing. And those first prayers, when people don't know what to say, but because faith has begun enough to believe that, yeah, I think there is a God, and I'm going to pray, because you begin to believe that He can do something, that He rewards those who seek Him, as it says, and that He cares enough to listen and to do something. And for me, I've been the witness of watching just brand new Christians and people that aren't even Christians yet that are seeking God. I've seen miracles happen in their lives where they call out to God and God does things in answer to that very basic, simple faith. So you want to talk about something powerful? When you get in touch with God, the Creator, the source of all things, there is nothing more powerful than that. And it's not about some great faith, it's just simple faith. And so we're kind of all equal on that. We're on an equal playing field. That if we believe that God exists, we believe that He can do something, He has the ability, and that He cares enough to do it, that He is good. And that's enough, friends, that's enough. So if we want to grow in our faith, may we be people that grow in our vision of God, and that it's not what we see, because we don't walk by sight, by what we touch and feel and see, but we walk seeing the unseen, like Moses did when he left Egypt. It says, as if he saw the one who was invisible. And let us be people like that. And that in our prayers we know that we're approaching God, and I don't need to drum some kind of thing up, some kind of feeling, or follow some kind of formula, but I need to look to God. I know that He's there. And even if I feel my faith shaken, I don't feel very strong in faith, if I have enough faith to step in and to pray to God, that is already an extremely powerful thing, because it's connecting me with the source of all things. And so, brother and sister, whether you feel strong in faith or not so strong in faith, just having a mustard seed of faith is a powerful thing. And that's a key to a strong prayer life. So as we see God moving over and over, as we see His faithfulness and we see the things that He does, we may never see His hand moving, but we can see something of the handwriting of God, and we recognize that handwriting. And we know God through those experiences in a greater way. Our faith is strengthened because we go again and again and again. We see God doing those things. And so we can get to a point where it's hard for us to doubt what God can do. So, friends, it's not a mechanical, formulaic thing, but just simply knowing that God knows before we ever say anything. And we can approach Him with that confidence. I hope that this blesses you in some way today, my brother, my sister. Bless you.